Hello y'all, my name is Sam, my pronouns are they, them, and welcome back to my office. So, today is the day. It is Friday, January 3rd, it is about noon, and we are going to be talking about some of my most anticipated books of 2025. Now, I have not yet filmed my 2024 reading wrap-up yet, but I've kind of looked into the numbers a little bit, and 2024 for me was the year of gay shit and horror shit. And 2025 is looking to be just about the same thing for me. So, I will say that the vast majority of the books that I'm looking forward to are horror. After that comes fantasy. After that, there's like a tiny sprinkling of romance. But honestly, my vibe for romance just really hasn't been in. So, other than that, almost all of the books are adult or new adult. There are a few YA sprinkled in. I think that there is maybe one or two horror YA. That sounds good to me. But other than that, any YA that is included are from authors that I have previously read and previously loved. But really, this is for people who are into new adult and adult, who are into horror and fantasy more than anything else. So, with that, let me walk you through how I'm going to structure this. I am going to hopefully provide right here some timestamps for you. If you have something like a genre that you really prefer, hopefully I'll have them here so you can skip through if you really want to focus on a specific genre. But we are going to start with my biggest category first, and we are going through all of the horror that I am most excited for in the year 2025. And then we will do fantasy, and then we will do romance. And if there's anything remaining after that, we'll talk about it too. But let's get started, and let's start talking about some awesome horror coming out in 2025. If you see me looking somewhere, it's over here at my computer, so bear with me. Okay, so we are going to try our best to go and release date. I think there are a couple of these that don't technically have release dates yet. But let's get started with Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. That comes out on January 14th. So this is a book that everyone's talking about, everyone's aware of, everyone's ready for. Grady Hendrix is not always an author that I'm completely obsessed with, but there are a couple of his books that really have caught my eye. How to Sell a Haunted House, I think, has been my favorite by him so far. So this, from what I understand, it might be a hit, it might be a miss for me. I'm not going to purchase it. I'm going to try to get it from my local library. But it is about a bunch of young girls who have become pregnant and they get shipped off to this house for wayward girls because it's a time period where it's like you're better to just be like kept away from everyone else rather than us have to see the fact that you're like young and pregnant. And they end up, I believe, like gaining access to witchcraft and are trying desperately to kind of regain power in a system that has really stripped them of any power or stability or anything. Not really my most anticipated of 2025. I don't really want to be starting with this one because this one kind of gives me similar vibes to My Best Friend's Exorcism, I think, which was not my favorite of his, but we're going to see what happens. Go with it. Sounds interesting anyway. So our next one, I believe, might be considered YA, might not be. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen it on a couple YA lists, but it's not listed as YA on Storygraph, so take with that what you will, but it's called Not Too Bold by Hache. They describe it as The Shape of Water meets Mexican Gothic in this Sapphic monster romance novella wrapped in Gothic fantasy trappings. So that has it for me right there. I love Mexican Gothic in every single capacity, so especially if this writing ends up being anything like Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing, it's just the romance, the beauty, the the detail, all of it will 100% be for me. But it says, the old keeper of the keys is dead, and the creature who ate her is the volatile lady of capricious house, Anathema, an enormous humanoid spider with a taste for laudanum and human bribes. That just sounds like everything I could ever ask for. It sounds so creepy. The cover is so stinking cute. This will probably be another one that I will try to source from my library in some capacity, and if I love it, I will have to add it. But it's too beautiful to pass up, to not give it a try. So that one actually comes out on February 11th. I have one book that comes out before that. My order was slightly off. But the one that comes out in January that I'm also kind of looking forward to is At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce. So this is about a woman who I believe is a serial killer, and she really doesn't have any regrets, any problems with herself, her life, how she chooses to live it. But I believe that she becomes the guardian of like 2 young girls after the death of their parents. It might be like, I think they're her nieces technically, and she decides to take them in as mostly a ploy to be able to have access to the inheritance. But when these 2 girls come to live at her house, they can see the ghosts of the people that she has killed and that she has buried in her garden. And she's like, whoa, 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 you know too much. So she has to decide on what to do and how to deal with the situation. This is another one that I will probably try to get from the library first. I've never read from this author before, but I'm really interested by the premise, so I want to give it a chance, and I am looking forward to it. Okay, so this next one comes out on February 11th, and it is by an author that I have never read from before or ever even heard of, but I'm so obsessed with it, called The Spirit Collection of Thorne Hall by J. Ann Thomas. This cover is just everything. It is everything. I am so excited for this, and I just have to read you like the first little comparison point because it sounds like it's almost perfect for me. So, a young woman forced to live with ghosts in the mansion frozen in time must decide between forbidden love and the price of freedom in this gothic fantasy where Jane Eyre meets the haunting of Bly Manor. Perfect for fans of Starling House. So, love Jane Eyre retellings. Love The Haunting of Bly Manor. I did not like Starling House, but that was more because of the author's writing style. So, this just sounds like it's going to be spooky and ghosty and gothic and romantic, just like everything from the creators of The Haunting of Hill House. And that's all I could ever ask for, honestly. It just looks so perfect. And yeah, that comes out on February 11th. I'm so stupid excited for that one. It's gonna be amazing. So the next one, I am absolutely entranced by the cover of this. It comes out on February 18th, and it is called Girl in the Creek by Wendy and Wagner. So this is all about this, I believe this woman who comes home to her hometown. I think she's like a freelancer. She comes home to this town that her brother had been murdered in, I believe. Don't quote me on any of this. Like, I'm not an expert. I'm doing my very damn best. And she comes home instead to find this body of a woman washed up on a creek. And she goes to tell people, and it disappears. And then they find it again, and they bring it to the morgue, and then it disappears again. All for the fingerprints from that body to be found on the corpse of another murder victim. So this just seems like spooky. I believe it's set in like the Pacific Northwest, like Oregon, so it's gonna be wet and swampy and foresty, atmospheric, and just everything I could ever ask for in a setting. Will I love the actual story? I don't know. We're gonna find out. It sounds spooky, it sounds interesting, it sounds up my alley, but will the setting do it for me? 100% yes, I can tell you that right now. So that's gonna be amazing. The next book that I'm going to talk about is YA, but it is from an author that I am absolutely obsessed with. This is She is a Haunting by Trang Thanh Tran. She writes Sapphic YA Vietnamese horror, I think this was her debut novel, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. It was so unexpectedly perfect in every way for me. And on March 4th, my 26th birthday, she is releasing They Bloom at Night. I don't even know, honestly, I can't even tell you what it's about, but look at this cover. It's just, I haven't read a synopsis at all, but it looks watery, and I love water horror. A red algae bloom has taken over Mercy, Louisiana. Ever since a devastating hurricane, mutated wildlife lurks in the water that rises by the day, but Mercy has always been a place where monsters walk in plain sight, especially at its heart, the Cove, where Noon's life was upended long before the storm at a party her older boyfriend insisted on. Now Noon is stuck navigating the submerged town with her mom, who believes their dead family has reincarnated as sea creatures. Alone with the pain of what happened that night at the Cove, Noon buries the truth. She is not the right shape. When Mercy's predatory leader demands Noon and her mom capture the creature drowning residents, she reluctantly finds an ally in his deadly hunter of a daughter and friends old and new. As the next storm approaches, Noon must confront the past and decide if it's time to answer the monster itching it at her skin. Oh my god. Oh my god. That just sounds perfect to me. It sounds like everything, especially because recently I've been learning a lot about Hurricane Katrina and the horrors of it. And it has been horrible but important. So that is one that I will probably just buy because I love this author so much, and I am just more than happy to have her on my shelf. There aren't a lot of authors that I buy first and read later anymore, but she is definitely one of them. So the next one is one that everyone is talking about, everyone knows about. I am not going to be the first person to tell you about this one, and I'm definitely not going to be the most eloquent to speak about this one, but it is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, and that is coming out on March 18th. I am not always the biggest lover of Stephen Graham Jones. I've only read 2 of his books, and it's not that I don't like them, but they're not like my favorite, like they are a lot of other people's. So this is definitely going to be one that I get from the library first to see if I like it, but I'm very interested to see what he does. See, it's not that I don't always love his stories, but it's always an interesting reading experience. Like, I always walk out of my reading experience of Stephen Graham Jones and think, I'm glad I read that, even if I didn't love it. And a lot of the time, when I read him, he might not work for me perfectly, but he works really well for my partner. So I kind of justify some of my reading sometimes of being like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but if it's not my favorite, it'll probably end up being like a favorite for my partner. So it kind of makes it worth it, so I can push it towards her and be like, you read this, tell me what you think, as this was probably your vibe. So that's kind of how I'm going into this. I don't really know a lot about it, and a lot of other people can talk about it a lot better than I can. Now, one that I can talk about really, really well is another author that I'm just kind of obsessed with, and I will probably just buy this book outright. It comes out on March 18th, and it is The Haunting of Room 904 by Erika T. Wurth. Erika T. Wurth wrote White Horse that I read this year that I loved. It was so good. It was everything I could have asked for. It was so good. And she has been promoting this book on TikTok for months now, and I am just like wringing my hands in anticipation to read this. This is probably like the top of the list for most anticipated of 2024 because I love her writing style so much. She is an Indigenous author, and she just writes such interesting stories in such a beautiful way. And her characters are so interesting. We are following this woman named Olivia, who her sister dies mysteriously. Her sister is a known medium. She's always been known to speak to the dead, but when she mysteriously dies, all of a sudden Olivia is seeing the dead, can speak to them. after a few years, she is one of the most renowned paranormal investigators, and this hotel reaches out to her and says, hey, we don't know why, but every couple years, no matter what room a girl checks into, we always find her dead the next morning in room 904. What the hell is going on? And it all apparently kind of wraps around itself to uncover the mystery kind of Olivia's like sister's demise and the demise of these women, and it's just gonna be everything that my heart could ever ask for. So this will be an automatic buy for me, especially in my birthday month. So I'm so excited for this one. It's gonna be perfection. I can feel it already. So the next one is totally 100% a cover obsession for me. It is Gothictown by Emily Carpenter, and it releases on March 25th. I'm just going to read the like little catchy blurb, honestly, because I don't want to read the synopsis. I don't want to spoil myself for this one. Some books I just don't want to read the synopsis for. I want to go into it blind, and this is one of them. So, in an immersive Southern Gothic with echoes of Shirley Jackson's The Lottery and Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, a restaurateur lured by pandemic-era incentives moves her family to a seemingly idyllic small town in Georgia, only to discover a darkness lurking beneath the Southern hospitality and sun-dappled streets. Welcome to Gentle Juliana, where you can have it all if you pay the price. I love me a Southern Gothic. I really, really do. As a New Englander and a Northerner at heart, someone who honestly, you wouldn't catch me dead in the South because it's too hot. And I like 20 degrees and below. I love, 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 love a Southern Gothic. Love everything about them. And this cover is just angsty. It just feels like early 2000s Gothic angst. And I eat that up. It looks like I would have picked this off of my goth cousin's shelf. It was a CD when I was like 13, which is just my vibe. So the next one comes out on April 8th, and it is Make Sure You Die Screaming by Zee Carlstrom. So I found this on a non-binary books of 2025 list, and the cover, all of it. And it says, an electrifying debut about a non-binary corporate burnout embarking on a road trip from Chicago to Arkansas to find their conspiracy theorist father who has gone missing, for fans of Detransition Baby and Chain Gang All-Stars. Now, I don't know how much I talked about it, but I read Detransition Baby this year by, I believe it was Tori Peters. And I had a really complicated relationship with that story. I never ended up giving it a rating because I just couldn't put it all together. I didn't feel regret for reading the book, and I didn't feel like I disliked the book, but I just couldn't put my finger on anything, really. So this is really going to be a hit or miss for me. It's labeled as a thriller. I'll probably end up getting it from the library and see how I feel, but I really want to give it a try because it sounds really interesting. So the next one is one of the very few YAs that is coming from an author, well, two authors technically, that I don't know, I've never heard of, but I have to give it a try. I have to give it a try. It's a YA horror. It releases on April 22nd, and it's called The Summer I Ate the Rich by Maritza Mallet and Micah Mallet. Sorry, I had a typo. This is why I have my list and I have my Storygraph open at all times. It is described as a bone-chilling modern horror about a Haitian American girl who uses her previously hidden zombie abilities to enact revenge on the wealthy elites who caused her family pain. What? Okay. Secret zombie. Eating the rich. Shenanigans as a whole. You can't stop me. Can't stop me. I have to give it a try. I have to see what this is about. It's required. I'm so excited for this. Especially with the vibe of the universe right now. You know, this just sounds like I need it. So, making an exception and I'm picking it up, and no one can stop me. The next one is When the Wolf Comes by Nat Cassidy, and it comes out on April 22nd. I have never heard of Nat Cassidy before. I've never read anything by them, but this fantastic YouTuber put me onto them, and their excitement really, like, became my excitement. So, I don't know. Do I know that much about it? No. Were they so excited about it that it made me excited? 100%. So it is described as an unabashed, adrenaline-fueled pop horror thriller reminiscent of Dean Koontz and Stephen King and inspired by The Lathe of Heaven and Terminator 2. So when a struggling actress finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside of her apartment after a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy themselves start running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, horrifying incidents of butchery follow them. At first, Jess thinks she understands what they're up against, but she's about to learn there's more to these surreal and grisly events than she could have ever imagined. And that when the wolf finally comes home, none will be spared. That sounds spooky. That sounds interesting. It doesn't sound like my normal vibe, but I want to give it a try anyway. And you know what? Who cares? I can get it from my local library, and if I like it, then I'll end up buying it. The next one is one that I skipped over like 4 or 5 times, and then I was just like, I can't get this one out of my head, and I had to do a little bit more research on it. So it is called Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, and it comes out on April 25th. So this is about a woman who answers to a help wanted sign at a florist shop, and ultimately, like, the florist shop owner and this woman start to become close. They start to become a little bit entangled, and the shop owner has this carnivorous plant. This carnivorous plant does not belong to the shop owner. No. The shop owner belongs to him. And he becomes obsessed and jealous, and he really, really just wants to, like, consume the shop owner. And it's really, really, really interesting. I don't know. It sounds weird. It sounds like weird bitch horror. And I love me some weird bitch horror, so we're just kind of gonna go with it. It'll probably be another one that I'll try to source from the library, because I'm just unsure, especially because I believe that it kind of gives off like early 2000s, 90s, like at the mall kind of vibes. And those aren't always my kind of vibes, but we're gonna see. It seems interesting nonetheless. So, and sometimes it doesn't have to be your perfect book from the description alone. Sometimes it just needs to be interesting. Now the next one is, I'm sorry, she's playing with a squeaker toy. We're just gonna let it happen. The next one is called The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee, and it comes out on May 6th. So this is described as Mexican Gothic meets Everything I Never Told You in Christina Lee's haunting novel about the secrets that lie in wait in the crumbling mansion of a former Hollywood starlet and the intertwined fates of the 2 Chinese-American families fighting to inherit it. Something about this cover just caught me, and I can't stop thinking about it. I don't always love things that are set around Hollywood. I'm unsure how I'm going to really feel about The Manor of Dreams, but something about it is calling to me. So I'm going to listen to that call, especially because I find Asian horror to be really interesting and really dynamic, and I find that it might just be the fact that I am not, like, knowledgeable about a lot of different Asian cultures in any capacity. So I just think, like, when I read Asian horror of any variety, whether it be Japanese or Vietnamese or Chinese or anything like that, something about it is always just, like, more interesting and more surprising to me, and I think it's just that I'm not as used to being ingrained into those cultures, so I find them more interesting. So I feel called to it. I feel like I want to give it a try, so I think I'm going to. Now the next one, I know nothing about whatsoever. But I read my first Mira Grant book in 2024, and I was obsessed with it. Obsessed. And I really like ocean horror, so I read Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I loved it. I loved every single second of it. So when I heard that Mira Grant has another book coming out this year called Overgrowth, I immediately added it to my list. It is coming out on May 6th. I'm just gonna buy it. I don't know anything about it, and that's how I want to go into it. And that's just the life we're gonna live, because I also found out that Mira Grant is another pen name for Seanan McGuire, and her writing is just perfect for me no matter what. So no matter what, I'm going to enjoy this. Do I need to say anything else? I don't think so. The next one comes out on May 6th as well, and I am obsessed with this cover. This gives me like American Horror Story hotel kind of vibes, and I really liked that season. I thought it was interesting. Maybe it's just my obsession with Lady Gaga a little bit, but you never know. And it is Below the Grand Hotel by Kat Sully. The Great Gatsby meets Hellraiser in this 1920s horror novel of glitz, glamour, and demons. Do I need to say more? I don't think I do need to say more. And you're spending a lot of time with me right now, so look at the cover, look at the little bloodstain, take that little sentence, and come on this journey with me, because I will be picking this up when it comes out. 100%. Next is one that I am also just the cover. The cover is so interesting. And you know what? Everything lately is getting compared to Mexican Gothic, and it is dragging me down with it because I loved Mexican Gothic so much. So this is a me problem, 100%. This is Butchica by Carolina Flores Cercario, and it is described as Mexican Gothic meets The Shining, a Gothic horror set in the 1930s Colombia, in which a woman has one night to prove her ailing father innocent of murder while confronting the demons that haunt her old family mansion turned luxury hotel. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, you know what? I'm just a lover of Gothic horror in general, but this. Need I say more? Need I say more? The cover makes it look like it would be taught in a Gothic literature class. I'm just obsessed. That comes out on May 13th. The next one is one that I'm unsure about. I kind of want to see if anyone else has any strong opinions on this one. And it is Kill Creatures by Rory Power, and it comes out on June 3rd. I believe that Rory Power is the one who wrote Burn Our Bodies Down or something like that, and I felt subpar about it, so I wanted to include it to see what y'all had to say about it, honestly, more than talk about my excitement about it. Should I be excited about this? I've literally only seen it on like one list. I've looked at so many different lists, and I can't really find like anyone really talking about it, so I want y'all's opinion on it a little bit more. The next one is coming out on July 15th. We're doing a big old jump, going from June 3rd to July 15th. But it's necessary, and it is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. My love, my life, Silvia Moreno Garcia. An idol. A true idol. 3 women in 3 different eras encounter danger and witchcraft in this eerie multi-generational saga from the New York Times bestselling author of Mexican Gothic. Do I need to say more? I mean, even when I'm not obsessed with the actual story that she's telling, her writing just like itches that English major part of my brain. It really just satisfies me in a way that almost nothing else does. I can't help it. Can't help it. Not gonna help it. Super excited for it. Now, we potentially have my #1 most anticipated book of 2025 that I did not know about until today. From a very unlikely author. For some reason, this author, I should not like her. I really should not. I'm obsessed with her to the deepest parts of my soul. There is something about her stories that I should hate, but I'm obsessed with. And it is Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin. It comes out on August 5th, and I will be just straight up purchasing this right away. And I just have to, if you don't know, Gretchen Felker Martin is like extremely graphic, gory, volatile, just like bam, bam, bam in your face. And I don't normally like that at all. But in 2023, I read her debut novel, Manhunt, unexpectedly loved it. Kind of launched me into my horror era a little bit. And then last year, I read Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker Martin. That is on my top 10 of 2024. I'm not going to tell you where, but it was on that list. It was vile. It was disgusting. It was grotesque. It was everything. Now this, I'm just going to read you the full synopsis because I think that you need to hear it in your soul, because not enough people talk about her. Ellen, a deeply closeted lesbian, spends all her time in solitude restoring films at a failing archive in New York City. When a group of German academics present her with a print of an infamous exploitation film believed to have been destroyed during the Holocaust, Ellen finds herself forced to confront her own repressed sexuality. And the more she works on the restoration, the more obsessed she becomes over its depictions of occult practices and queer debauchery. She's soon convinced that the acts portrayed in the film are not fiction but reality, and they're happening to her. Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? Like, I can't. I have to have it. I'm gonna have to pre-order it. Like, I'm gonna have to have it. Next is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing, and it releases on August 12th. Old for This is about an older woman who is a serial killer, and a reporter comes up to her at her house one day, like years after her last killing, and asks her about one that she was involved with, and she has to decide whether she wants to get back into the game of killing, or if, like, the truth should come out, and all of that. Sounds really interesting. I'll probably grab it from the library. Don't know exactly how I feel about it, but I really do love women raging. So, what can I say? The next one is A Game in Yellow by Haley Piper, and that comes out on August 12th. This is another one that I kind of want to hear from y'all about a little bit more, because I read a Haley Piper book this year and I enjoyed it. I very genuinely did enjoy it. This one, I'm not sure. The previous Haley Piper book, I don't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but it's like The Teeth. It's The Teeth. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know. And I really did enjoy that. So I don't know, but I feel unsure about A Game in Yellow. Yeah, it's described as Euphoria meets Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, in the latest novel by the Bram Stoker Award-winning author Haley Piper, following a couple whose search to spice up their sex life leads them down a path of madness. Euphoria. Love. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Don't love. Screamed. Almost vomited. Couldn't handle it. So y'all tell me. I'm gonna wait for y'all's opinion before I pick this one up for my own sanity. We only have 2 more horrors left and then we can move on. The next is The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas, and that comes out on August 12th as well. I think this is just like a pretty straightforward demonic possession. That's my shit. That's my shit. I don't have much else to say by that. Like, this, honestly, just looking at it, it's just going to be for me. It's just my shit. So, if this is the kind of stuff that is also your shit, like, we were one. We are now. The last one. Probably also, my Gretchen Felker Martin and this one are probably, like, tied for most anticipated books for the entirety of 2025. This one does not have a release date, but it has a release season. And it is You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White, to be released in fall of 2025. I know nothing about this. I don't need to know anything about this. Andrew Joseph White is an auto-buy author for me. Anything that he puts out into the world, I'm buying. I'm not questioning it. I'm not reading the synopsis. I'm buying it. I don't even want to know what it's about, but I'm going to pre-order it and I'm going to read the fuck out of it. And that is all of our horror most anticipated of 2025. Now let's move on to my 2 smaller categories. So we'll start with fantasy because that is my next. So the first one to come out in the fantasy category is Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Seanan McGuire. It is book 10 of the Wayward Children series and it comes out on January 9th. I believe we're following Nadia? Is it Nadia? I believe that's her name. I don't really need to know anything else, honestly. I'm gonna read it. I love the Wayward Children series, so I don't really need to know much else. Next, I'm super excited for. I've never read from this author before, but it seems like it would be just up my alley, and it is The In-Between Bookstore by Edward Underhill, and it comes out on January 14th. So it is described as a whimsical and healing novel about a trans man in New York who, almost 30, laid off, broke, moves back to his small Illinois hometown, walks into the bookstore he worked at in high school, and slips through time to come face to face with his pre-transition teenage self. I'm just super interested in this. It sounds like my shit. It sounds like I could very easily start sobbing. So I'm just gonna have to grab it. I'll probably grab it from my library though. She's trying to drink my tea. You can't have this. It's mommy tea. Why are you like this? Next is, I believe, the last book in the Emily Wilde series. It is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, and it comes out on February 11th. I'm going to read it to complete the series. I'll probably listen to the audiobook. I don't own any of these, and I probably won't ever own any of them. I really enjoy these books for the voice of the main character and the romance. But they're not something that I like refer back to and like am obsessed with. It's just something that I enjoy. So I don't really know anything about them, but I'll probably end up picking it up. The next one is a novella from a debut author, technically debut author, because the book that he wrote previously was co-authored, but it's one that everyone's talking about, and it is The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar, who also wrote This Is How We Lose the Time War. The River Has Roots is the hugely anticipated solo debut of New York Times bestseller and Hugo Award winner author Amal El-Mohtar. Follow the river Liss to the small town of Thistleford on the edge of Ferry and meet two sisters who cannot be separated, even in death. I mean, his writing was just beautiful. I can't help it. I'll probably end up just purchasing it, honestly, because this cover is just gorgeous. And that comes out on March 4th. Also my birthday! We'll have to do a new release birthday shopping spree this year. Next one is released on June 10th, so a big old jump. Big old jump. And it is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is described as a queer love story following the desires and dreams of a trio of enigmatic young women. Santo Domingo de la Calzada, 1532, London, 1837, Boston, 2019. Three young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangled like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild. All of them grow teeth. I love that. I love that so much. I really hope that I enjoy her next book, because I did not love the last book that she put out, and I really just want to get back into my V.E. Schwab grind. The last one just wasn't for me, so I'm hoping that this one is. The next one is We Can Never Leave by H.E. Edgman, and it comes out on June 10th. So I'm so obsessed with his writing style and his character style that I don't really feel the need to know anything about this book. So I'm just gonna pick it up. Why not? Who cares? This is my life, and I can do what I want with it. The next one is one that I am not going to talk about in depth because a lot of other people can talk about it better. I have not read any other R.F. Kuang yet. I own some, but I haven't read them yet. But Catabasis is coming out on August 28th by R.F. Kuang, and I feel called to R.F. Kuang. I just haven't picked anything up yet because the books are always so thick and they're intimidating, and I want to be like really, really intellectually involved in them. So I haven't gotten there yet. I want to. I haven't gotten there yet, but I will. I will get there, god damn it. Buck is like, what are you talking about? Why are you such a psycho, mom? Next is Fate's Bane by C.L. Clarke. It comes out on September 30th. I know nothing about it. I really like C.L. Clarke, so this is another one where it's like, I really enjoy the author. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm assuming it's gonna be sapphic as hell. Whatever it is. There's gonna be pining. I know it. I know it in my bones. You can trust C.L. Clarke for that. The next one is one that I'm super interested in. I just have to read it to you a little bit. It comes out on October 25th. It is called Shy Trans Banshee by Tony Santarella. And it's described as following in the paw prints of the anarchic, funny, and big-hearted board gay werewolf. Tony Santarella's Shy Trans Banshee is the brand new addition to an expanding universe of grinder hookups, chosen families, and magical misdeeds. How could I want anything other than that? And now we are almost done. I promise we're almost done. I have 4 romances to talk about, and then we're done. I'm not going to be like your romance go-to for 2025, but if I could give you even a little bit, I want to give it to you. So, the first one comes out on January 21st. It is French Pressed Love by MC Hudson. I don't know anything about this other than it's sapphic as hell, and the cover is really calling to me. So we're gonna go with that. And we're gonna say, hell yeah. Most of these covers are just things that are really like speaking to me. Next is Bed and Breakup by Susie Drummond, and that comes out on July 1st. Again, cover just really speaking to me. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. I liked those vibes. I'm interested in it. I'm gonna go with it. Next is Leaving the Station by Jake Maya Arlo, which comes out on August 19th. This is a sapphic YA, but she wrote How to Excavate a Heart. I was absolutely obsessed with this book when I read it. It was totally an unexpected read for me. It was a cover by, well, I was visiting family in Massachusetts in 2023, I think, 2022, 2023, and I ended up being obsessed with it. The only reason that I'm picking up Leaving the Station is because I know that I love this author. I love her writing style. I love her characters. Love all of it. So the last one is one that I do not have a release date for yet, but this is the most excited I am about a romance, and it is a cozy like fantasy romance. It is How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days by Jessie Silva. We don't have a cover. We don't have a release date. We don't have anything really. But can I just tell you, I've watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days at least 100 times over the years. At least. I might be a horror bitch now. I was a rom-com obsessed teenager. All my mom and I did was watch trashy rom-coms, and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, standard for us. So standard. So, How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days? Obviously, like, it just tickles me pink. I'm so excited for it. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be everything. I'm gonna have to own it just for, like, the kitsch of it all. So, I'm excited about that one. I can't wait for it. And that leads us to the end of the most anticipated releases of 2025. Horror, fantasy, and romance. What an interesting little nook you have crawled your way into if you are still here. If there's anything that I really missed out on, please let me know. I didn't even think to look if like Deanna Gray or Lizzie Strong or one other author was putting out anything. So I know that there's stuff that I have to be missing. So please let me know what I'm missing. And I hope that everyone is having a fantastic day. I will talk to y'all later.